There are moments in life when the storms come crashing down, when the weight of the world seems unbearable, when the night feels endless and the morning refuses to break. In those moments, it isn't the loudest voice or the strongest body that rises. It is the strength of the mind, the unshakable spirit, and the resilience of the heart. True power is not found in muscles or titles, but in the quiet choices we make when no one is watching, in the discipline we keep when everything around us tempts us to give up. Mentally strong people are not those who avoid hardship. They are the ones who face it, endure it, and transform it into growth. They carry scars, but those scars become reminders of battles won, not defeats suffered. And there are 6 things, 6 unbreakable habits that separate them from the rest. First, they do not waste time feeling sorry for themselves. Life may deal them a handful of struggle, but they refuse to sit in the shadows of self-pity. They rise, they learn, they adapt. Pain becomes their teacher, not their prison. Second, they embrace change, even when it's uncomfortable. Change is the doorway to growth, and mentally strong people walk through it willingly. They know the familiar may feel safe, but greatness never blooms in comfort zones. Third, they guard their power. They do not give others the keys to their peace, their joy, or their worth. No insult, no betrayal, no storm can steal the strength they choose to hold within. Fourth, they stay focused on what they can control. The world may spin in chaos, but mentally strong people anchor themselves to discipline, effort, and attitude. They don't chase the wind, they set their sails. Fifth, they take calculated risks. Fear whispers, "What if you fall?" But they answer back, "What if I fly?" They don't gamble blindly, but they don't let fear keep them chained. They study, they prepare, and then they leap. And 6, they never give up after failure. They understand failure is not the end, it is the soil in which wisdom grows. Every setback is a step forward in disguise. Every stumble a rehearsal for the moment they rise stronger than before. There is a quiet but dangerous trap that steals the strength of countless souls. The temptation to feel sorry for oneself. Life will hand you disappointments, heartbreaks, betrayals, and losses, but the difference between those who crumble and those who rise lies in the response. Mentally strong people understand that indulging in self-pity is like sitting in quicksand. The longer you stay, the deeper you sink. They know that when you dwell on what has gone wrong, you paralyze yourself from seeing what can still go right. So instead of asking, "Why me?" they ask, "What now? And what can I do?" That single shift transforms victims into warriors and turns sorrow into fuel for growth. The mind is a battlefield, and the enemy of progress whispers in the form of excuses, bitterness, and blame. It says you've been treated unfairly, that life is too cruel, that others have it easier, and that you deserve to quit. But mentally strong people silence that voice with action. They do not deny their pain, but they refuse to worship it. They allow themselves to feel disappointment, but they do not build a home in it. They understand that the world owes them nothing, and that real strength comes not from expecting mercy from life, but from standing tall even when life shows no mercy at all. When tragedy strikes, or opportunities are lost, many choose to wallow in endless comparisons. They look at others who seem happier, richer, or more fortunate, and in doing so they deepen their wounds with envy. But the mentally strong redirect their vision inward. They stop asking, "Why did they get what I didn't?" and instead declare, "I will fight for what is mine to build." This mindset is not arrogance. It is the deep recognition that pity cannot build, cannot heal, cannot create, and cannot restore. Only action can. And action begins the moment you stop feeling sorry for yourself. They also understand that self-pity is seductive because it attracts attention and sympathy. It whispers, Stay broken, for then the world will comfort you. But mentally strong people do not crave comfort at the cost of their destiny. They do not settle for being pitied when they were born to be respected. They choose dignity over desperation, even if it means walking alone. They would rather be known as resilient than as victims. And they would rather carry scars with pride than sit in shadows waiting for someone else to fix their story. There is also a hidden truth that self-pity blinds people from seeing. Every challenge carries within it the seed of growth. What feels like an ending often births a beginning. What seems like punishment can become preparation. Those who indulge in pity miss the chance to grow. But those who rise above it discover strength they never knew existed. They realize the very weight that threatened to break them was building endurance, patience, and wisdom. Self-pity blinds the eyes, but resilience sharpens them. It allows you to see that life, in all its harshness, is still shaping you into someone stronger, braver, and more capable. To refuse self-pity is not to deny pain. It is to respect it enough to let it teach you instead of trap you. It is to acknowledge that hurt is real, but so is healing. That disappointment cuts deep, but so does determination. Mentally strong people understand that they cannot control what life throws at them, but they can always control whether they lie down in defeat or rise up in defiance. They know that the longer you entertain pity, the more it changes your potential, and the sooner you let it go, the faster you reclaim your power. Change is one of the most uncomfortable truths of life. It arrives uninvited, often at the moments we least expect it, and it rarely asks for permission. For many, change feels like a thief that robs them of the familiar, strips away their comfort, and pushes them into unknown waters where fear lurks. But mentally strong people do not run from change. They embrace it. They understand that resisting change is like standing in front of a tidal wave, arms outstretched, believing you can hold it back. No matter how tightly you cling to the past, life will always keep moving forward, and those who refuse to adapt get left behind. Strength is not found in clinging. It is found in adjusting and growing, in evolving into something greater with every new chapter. The truth is, change is not the enemy. It is the teacher that forces you to discover what you are truly made of. When everything around you shifts, you are forced to decide whether you will crumble under the weight of uncertainty or expand into someone stronger. Mentally strong people choose the latter. They see every transition, every shift, every unexpected twist of fate as an opportunity for growth. They do not waste their energy asking why things cannot stay the same, because they know the only constant in life is change itself. And while others shrink back in fear of the unknown, they lean in with courage, saying, "This is where my growth begins." To embrace change is to accept that nothing is permanent, neither joy nor sorrow, neither success nor failure. Mentally strong people carry this truth not as a burden, but as a reminder to keep moving, to keep learning, to keep becoming. They understand that holding on to old versions of themselves will only prevent them from meeting the person they were meant to become. They do not fear outgrowing people, habits, or environments, because they know that growth often requires letting go. Just as a tree must shed its leaves in the fall to bloom again in the spring, they release what no longer serves them so they can step fully into the new season of life waiting ahead. Change is also the birthplace of creativity and resilience. When familiar paths disappear, the mentally strong do not stand frozen at the crossroads. They forge new paths. They adapt their minds to challenges. They learn new skills. They explore new ideas. And in doing so, they discover strengths they never knew they had. What others see as loss, they see as transformation. What others fear as endings, they recognize as beginnings. Their courage is not found in avoiding change, but in walking into it with the belief that even if they stumble, they will rise wiser and braver than before. Many people waste years of their lives resisting change, mourning what used to be, wishing for the comfort of yesterday. But mentally strong people refuse to let nostalgia chain them to the past. They carry their memories, but they do not let memories carry them away. They look at the horizon with hope instead of clinging to the shadows behind them. They remind themselves that comfort zones are safe, but nothing great ever grows there. Growth is born in discomfort, and change is the doorway through which that growth comes. To embrace change is also to embrace uncertainty. It is to walk forward even when the road is unclear, trusting that step by step, the path will reveal itself. The mentally strong do not wait for perfect clarity before moving forward, because they know clarity often comes after action, not before it. They are willing to step into the unknown because they understand that the unknown is where transformation happens. While others cling to predictability, they cling to possibility. While others fear the storm, they ride its winds toward new horizons. There is a priceless treasure that every person carries within, yet so many give it away without realizing its value. That treasure is inner power, the ability to choose your response, to guard your peace, and to remain centered no matter what storms rage outside. Mentally strong people understand that this treasure must be protected at all costs. They know that the moment you allow someone else to dictate your emotions, your worth, or your sense of peace, you have surrendered control of your life. And when you give away your power, you become a prisoner of circumstances, constantly reacting instead of directing, constantly wounded instead of rising. Mentally strong people refuse to live as prisoners to the actions or opinions of others. They do not allow an insult to poison their day, nor do they allow betrayal to chain them in bitterness. They refuse to hand the keys of their happiness to anyone else. They know that peace is not found in controlling the world, but in controlling themselves. And so they guard their hearts and their minds with vigilance, refusing to let negativity, envy, or hatred take residence within them. They understand that they cannot always control what others say or do, but they can always control how much power they give to it. This protection of inner power is not weakness, it is strength of the highest kind. For it takes far more courage to remain calm in the face of provocation than to lash out in anger. It takes greater discipline to forgive than to hold a grudge. It takes deeper wisdom to walk away from what threatens your peace than to fight battles that drain your soul. Mentally strong people know that their energy is precious and they will not waste it on battles that do not build them, on arguments that do not matter, or on people who seek to pull them down into the mud. They choose their battles with wisdom. And most of the time, the battle they choose is simply to protect their peace by walking away. Protecting inner power also means refusing to live as a victim. Victims hand over their power by believing that life, other people, or circumstances control their destiny. They wait for someone to rescue them, to fix them, to hand them a better life. But mentally strong people reclaim their power by taking responsibility. They do not blame endlessly. They do not point fingers. They do not allow excuses to chain them to the same place year after year. Instead, they take ownership of their choices, their growth, and their future. They declare, I cannot control everything, but I can control myself, and that is enough. This guarded strength is also about boundaries. Mentally strong people know that protecting their peace sometimes requires saying no, even when it disappoints others. It requires stepping back from toxic relationships, even when it hurts. It requires cutting ties with habits, environments, or people that feed negativity. They are not cruel, but they are firm. They are not heartless, but they are wise enough to know that constantly giving away their power for the sake of pleasing others will only leave them empty. They protect their energy because they know their mission in life requires it. They cannot shine if they are constantly drained, and they cannot lead if they are constantly distracted by battles that don't matter. When others try to provoke, mentally strong people respond with silence. When others try to drag them into chaos, they choose stillness. When others try to dim their light, they guard the flame within and let it burn brighter. This discipline does not mean they are cold or detached. It means they are deeply aware of the value of their spirit. They treat their inner power like a crown, never to be taken off, never to be surrendered. One of the greatest sources of human frustration is the desire to control what was never meant to be controlled. People exhaust themselves trying to change the weather, the economy, the behavior of others, or the unfolding of fate itself, only to end up weary, bitter, and broken. But mentally strong people have learned a vital truth. Peace and power belong to those who focus only on what lies within their control. They refuse to waste energy wrestling with the uncontrollable, because they understand that life is not about bending the world to your will, but about mastering yourself within it. Every day presents countless circumstances beyond your reach. You cannot decide who will betray you, who will misunderstand you, or what obstacles will rise against you. You cannot dictate whether the sun will shine tomorrow or whether the road ahead will be smooth. But you can choose your response, your attitude, your discipline, and your perseverance. Mentally strong people anchor themselves to these choices because they know that strength is not found in controlling the storm, but in controlling their sail. The winds may shift, the seas may rage, but they steer their vessel with steady hands, unshaken by what lies outside of them. Focusing on what you cannot control is like carrying a weight that was never yours to bear. It drains your energy, clouds your judgment, and leaves you powerless. But when you shift your attention to what is within your hands, the effort you give, the habits you cultivate, the thoughts you entertain, you suddenly find clarity, focus, and strength. Mentally strong people understand this distinction, and it is what separates them from the crowd. While others complain, they act. While others curse the darkness, they light a candle. While others drown in worry, they rise in discipline. This mindset is not born overnight. It is a discipline forged in the fires of adversity. It requires the humility to accept that some things will never bend to your will, no matter how much you wish them to. It requires the wisdom to discern where your influence begins and where it ends. And it requires the courage to let go of what is beyond you. Mentally strong people practice this discipline daily. They refuse to be consumed by gossip, politics, or the endless noise of opinions that add nothing to their purpose. They withdraw their energy from the uncontrollable and pour it fully into what they can shape. Consider the difference. A person who obsesses over the actions of others lives as a puppet, strings pulled by outside forces. But a person who focuses only on their own choices lives as a master, free to create, free to grow, free to move forward. That freedom is the hallmark of mental strength. It is not about ignoring reality. It is about refusing to give power to what you cannot change. When they face rejection, mentally strong people do not dwell on the closed door. They focus on the next step forward. When they face setbacks, they do not waste time blaming others. They ask, what can I do better next time? Their gaze is fixed not on the uncontrollable winds, but on the steady rudder in their own hand. Even in moments of deep pain, this principle holds true. Loss, betrayal, and failure will come, and no amount of strength can erase them. But mentally strong people remind themselves, I cannot control what happened, but I can control what I will do with it. They turn wounds into wisdom, heartbreak into purpose, obstacles into stepping stones. They know that every ounce of energy poured into anger or regret is energy stolen from growth. And so they let go of what they cannot control, not in weakness, but in defiance, declaring that nothing outside of them will dictate who they become. Fear is one of the greatest barriers to human potential. It whispers in the dark, convincing people to stay small, to remain safe, to never step beyond the boundaries of comfort. Fear says, don't try because you might fail. Don't leap because you might fall. And so many listen, building invisible cages around themselves and calling it security. But mentally strong people live differently. They understand that greatness is never born in the absence of risk. They know that playing it safe may protect you from failure, but it also guarantees you will never taste the fullness of success. So they take risks, not reckless leaps without thought, but calculated risks, where courage meets wisdom and faith meets preparation. Calculated risk is not about gambling blindly. It is about weighing the possibilities, studying the path, and then daring to walk it, even when the outcome is uncertain. The mentally strong know that risk carries both danger and reward, and they refuse to be paralyzed by the possibility of loss. They understand that every breakthrough in history, every invention, every movement, every triumph was born because someone dared to take a step others were too afraid to take. They remind themselves that the risk of staying the same is always greater than the risk of change, because standing still while life moves forward is its own form of failure. To take risks with courage is to embrace the reality that fear will never disappear completely. Fear is part of being human, but courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. Mentally strong people feel the same fears others do, but they refuse to be ruled by them. They stand face to face with doubt, with uncertainty, with the unknown, and they step forward anyway. They know the leap may not always lead to immediate victory, but it will always lead to growth, and growth itself is a victory. This courage is guided by wisdom. Mentally strong people do not throw themselves blindly into danger, nor do they mistake recklessness for bravery. They prepare, they plan, they study, but they do not wait for perfect conditions, because they know perfection never arrives. They act when others are still hesitating, and that action becomes the very thing that separates them from the crowd. While others wait for guarantees, they move with faith. While others demand certainty, they create it through persistence. They understand that success is not built on luck alone, but on the willingness to take bold, calculated steps toward what matters. Risk is the birthplace of possibility. Every new chapter, every breakthrough, every dream fulfilled requires stepping into uncertainty. The mentally strong know that without risk, there is no reward. Without risk, there is no progress. Without risk, there is no discovery of what you are truly capable of. They remind themselves that even if they stumble, even if they fall, even if they fail, the experience itself becomes fuel for wisdom, resilience, and strength. Every risk taken is an investment in growth, and every risk avoided is a door to potential forever closed. Most people allow fear to write the story of their lives, but the mentally strong take back the pen. They understand that regret is heavier than failure, and the pain of wondering what if lasts far longer than the sting of falling short. So they dare, they step out of line, they raise their hand, they chase the dream that others say is impossible. They put themselves in positions where growth is demanded, not optional. And in doing so, they expand beyond what they thought possible, proving again and again that courage is the bridge between who you are and who you were meant to be. Failure is one of the most feared experiences in life, yet it is also one of the most valuable. Most people treat failure as the end of the road, a wall too high to climb, a wound too deep to heal. They give up when their plans fall apart, when their efforts collapse, or when their dreams seem out of reach. But mentally strong people see failure differently. They understand that failure is not the end, but the classroom where wisdom is taught, the soil where resilience grows, and the fire that shapes character. For them, Failure is not a reason to stop. It is the reason to try again with greater strength, deeper wisdom, and clearer vision. When others fall and stay down, the mentally strong rise. They know that falling is inevitable, but staying down is a choice. Every time they stumble, they rise with a lesson in their hands. They look at what went wrong, not to pity themselves, but to learn, to adjust, to refine, to become better. Where others see embarrassment, they see education. Where others see defeat, they see preparation. Where others see an end, they see a beginning hidden in disguise. They treat failure not as a mirror of their worth, but as a stepping stone toward growth. This perspective gives them a freedom that many never taste. Because they are not afraid of failure, they are willing to take risks, to pursue dreams, to challenge themselves beyond comfort. They know that the path to greatness is littered with mistakes, missteps, and setbacks, but they welcome them as part of the journey. They remind themselves that every great inventor, leader, or achiever has stood face to face with failure, not once, but many times. And what separated those who succeeded from those who quit was not luck or talent alone. It was the determination to rise after falling, again and again until the breakthrough came. Mentally strong people also understand that failure is humbling, and humility is the foundation of wisdom. Each stumble strips away arrogance. Each mistake reminds them that growth is an ongoing process, and each setback strengthens their resolve. Instead of hiding from their failures, they embrace them, knowing that scars are not signs of weakness, but of survival. They wear their scars as proof that they tried, that they fought, that they dared, while others only dream. Their failures become their teachers, their motivators, and their proof that they have the courage to keep moving when quitting would have been easier. To rise stronger after failure requires resilience, the ability to bend without breaking, to endure without surrendering, to press forward when everything in you wants to stop. Mentally strong people cultivate this resilience daily. They practice persistence when tasks get hard. They practice patience when results take longer than expected. They practice grit when the world tells them to give up. And over time, they develop an unshakable spirit that no failure can destroy. What once would have broken them now builds them. What once would have silenced them now strengthens their voice. What once would have ended their journey now fuels it with even greater fire. Perhaps the most powerful truth mentally strong people carry is this: failure does not define them. Response does. A single failure does not erase worth, potential, or destiny. It is only when you allow failure to keep you down that it becomes defeat. But every time you rise, you rewrite the story. Every time you try again, you prove that strength is not about avoiding failure, but about refusing to let it stop you. Every failure becomes a chapter, but never the conclusion, because the mentally strong know the only true failure in life is giving up entirely.